Hi, this is Dan here. I hope you're doing really well. Now today, this is my annual get back from holiday, 4 weeks of not playing and needing to build my technique up again. And I'm going to show you exercises like that, which use a really handy shape and a technique called legato. So first of all, let's just go through the shape and I'll explain everything else as we go. This is a G major scale, but it is 3 notes per string. That's part of what makes it really handy for this exercise. We start on an F sharp. So the root note is G. That's the lowest note of the scale, the tonic. But we're starting on the F sharp to get that 3 note per string pattern. So we've got F sharp, G and A, and fingers 1, 2 and 4 on the 2nd, 3rd and 5th frets of the E string. And you just match that shape on the A string, fingers 1, 2 and 4 once more. And this time on the E, F sharp, G, it's 1, 3 and 4. And then A, B, C, it's 1, 3, 4 again. So we're using 1 finger per fret technique here, where you're using the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th fingers lined up, in this case starting from the 2nd fret. I do all kinds of different exercises to warm up, especially if I've come back from having not played for a long time. And this is one of them. I really like this, just a 3 note per string pattern and just plucking, just index, middle, all the way. Just a word, if you're struggling with that stretch, or just with the fact that the frets are a bit too wide down here, just move across and you can do the exact same pattern anywhere. So let's say, for example, on the B, 7th fret of the E string. That's feeling a lot more comfortable for me, actually. So you can transfer any of what I'm showing you today further up the neck if that's what you want to do. But let's go back to the G major. This is the pattern. And we're using legato. Now, legato means smooth in Italian. And on a guitar or bass, it refers to hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides. And you get this kind of thing. I just did 1 pluck there. And this hand, the fretting hand, was responsible for all of that fast stuff. That's legato. Let's take a look at this first exercise. And again, if that looks too tricky for you because it is all 16th notes, all you do is you slow it down. I'll do that now. I'll slow it down. Here's this whole exercise, then I'll show you the techniques. Okay, so the first bar, ascending, going from the lowest to the highest note, we have hammer-ons. So that first little section there, you've got that arc over the notes, and that on notation refers to legato technique. So when we're going from a low to high note, you're hammering on like this. So we've got F sharp, G and A. Frets 2, 3 and 5 of the E string, fingers 1, 2 and 4. I've just got my hand set in that shape. Very important to hold the bass in such a way that your wrist is as straight as possible. You must keep the fingers quite curled in order to get there without any pain. That's essential. If you do have any pain at all, you just stop for that day and you build this up slowly. You do 1 pluck. I'm going to use my index finger, and then you hammer on. So it's fingers 1 to 2. Now look at this. The hammer-on must be as loud as the plucked note. That's the same for a pull-off, which we'll get to in a minute. But here, if I pluck the F sharp, that's a hammer-on. So the 2nd finger is curled and quite stiff. You don't want any collapsing going on. I'm coming from about an inch, inch and a half above, and really trying to imagine I'm striking through the fretboard to get that sound. This is really why this is a great technique builder, especially because we're using the little finger, which you may or may not use. I recommend you do. If you've got any injuries or arthritis or anything, then you might just have to do your own thing. But here we go. Especially that little finger, that's hard. You've got to get that stretch. But all of those 3 notes, apart from the first one, which is plucked, are taken care of with hammer-ons. Then we go to the next string and you do the same thing. That's it in context. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we go E, F sharp, G. This time we're fingers 1, 3, and 4. Again, we've got that fingers curled thing going on, 1 pluck. The rest is hammer-ons. So if I'm going 1, 2, these are 16th notes. Da, 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 da. So those. Just a quick tangent. I'm just back from holiday. We went London, Doha, Singapore. And, you know, it was a crazy long flight. And actually, I just sat down in the armchair, came back here. And I didn't want to switch on any equipment, any amps, anything. I've got this Kala U-bass, this tiny little thing here, which they very kindly sent to me. I use this all the time. If you've taken any of my courses and watched any of my videos, I usually write on this thing. I have it next to an armchair, and I just pick it up and I just play, and I really don't think about it much more than that. I also have a full-size acoustic bass guitar I use for the same purpose. I also have a bass guitar lying around that I don't often plug in. I'll just play it, you know, like this. I do recommend that you practice with an amp or some sort of sound source, headphones, so that you can really hear what you're doing. But I love practicing like this. Doesn't disturb anyone, and it just gets my hands on the bass. And right now, that's really, really what I need. Let's return to this. Now we're going to go the other direction now. And we have pull-offs. I find this harder. I think this is a bit more difficult than the other way when we descend. So this time we're going frets 5, 4, 3. That's the C, the B, and the A on the G string. I'm using fingers 4, 3, and 1. Don't forget you can download the PDF below. I'll put a link below so you can study this all in your own time. So a few things. So here we go. Just focus on those notes. So I'm doing 1 pluck. I have my hand set in that shape, hovering over the notes I want. And in actual fact, when you're playing pull-offs, let's focus on the first one. You pluck. That third finger on the B is already fretting, as is the first finger on the A. This is great for developing that stretch. That's probably the hardest thing you can do, is a pull-off from the little finger to the third finger. To get the pulled off note as loud as the plucked note, you sort of have to flick downwards towards the floor. And then now I have both these fingers, the third and the first, pressed down. And I flick the third to get to that A underneath the first finger. You know, to get everything even, that's the challenge. That's tough, okay? Another thing I don't know if you're noticing here, this is just something I do. This is the floating thumb technique. I've got the E, the A, and the D strings all covered, all muted. If I had my thumb on the pickup, I've already got ringing. So that's what I do just to stop that. Then we go immediately to the next string, and it's the same pattern. So what I do here is I go, as soon as that little finger is up, it's on its way to the 5th fret of the D string, and then the other fingers follow, and that's just economy of motion. Just always have a finger in the next place before you're there. And then we go, this time, fingers 4, 2, and 1 on frets 5, 3, and 2. Then it's the same on the E string. Slowly. I just use my index finger all the way. You can use a mixture. Doesn't really matter too much, especially in this direction. You can rake, which that's that technique, raking. Let's move on to the next exercise, which is just a variation of this. I've only notated 3 exercises. Actually, I just do all kinds of random things, which I'll show you after this. So here we go. We've got this. So this time I'm going to say frets now. 2, 3 on the E and the A, and then 2, 4. So I'm sort of splitting that pattern in half. And then on the way back, we're doing fingers again, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 2, 4, 2. when I'm using my Kala U-bass, or when I'm using my acoustic, or just a bass guitar with no volume, I'm not using a metronome or a drum loop, I'm just playing. It really is just about me getting the coordination, the speed, the accuracy, strength, stamina, all of that together again. I don't really care too much about timing, although that is really important. So you can use a metronome or you can use a drum loop. Last notated exercise is this. It's where we combine hammer-ons and pull-offs. A bit Spanishy sounding there. That might play into some random stuff I'll show you in a minute. But here we have B, C, B, A, B. Or finger number wise. 3, 4, 3, 1, 3. And the rule is that's just one pluck. When you go from a lower to a higher note, you're doing a hammer-on. When you're going from a higher to a lower, like that, you're doing a pull-off. So that's a hammer-on immediately, followed by a pull-off. I'll do it slowly. Again, it's that flick. So the hammer, the flick. And then the next is a pull-off as well. That's why that first finger is already fretting the A. And then we're finishing with a hammer-on again, slowly. Same again on the D string. Almost the same on the A string. It's now fingers 2, 4, 2, 1, 2. I'll just zero in on this. Your little finger on that first hammer-on could easily strike the D and the G strings and make them ring. So what I'm doing here is I'm just backing that first finger down to lay gently across the D and the G strings. This is muting. Muting is always, always, always crucial, because otherwise you're going to have extraneous, unwanted noises. And muting is one of those things, I'll put a video here that goes more in depth into it. It's one of those things that you just have to control somehow, and you've got to focus on it. At some point on your bass journey, you can use a combination of fingers and hands, wrists to do muting. But here I'm just using that first finger. Equally, when you do the pull-off, from the C to the B, frets 3 to 2 of the A string. When I'm flicking this string, I'm resting on that D. You could easily come through it accidentally and pluck it. You know, again, that's muting and just having good, clean technique anyway. And the last one is the same. So those are just 3 exercises that I've notated. But when I was just picking up my bass, and I do these exercises all the time, these sorts of things, you can do anything. So that's that last one I just did, okay? This is the section of the lesson where I'm going to break away into stuff that you can make up and, you know, improvising. Because actually, if you listen to what I just did, you start to make up melodic phrases that you could probably use in solos and things like that. Okay, so that's the same figure I just did, which was the hammer-on, immediately followed by a pull-off, and another one, and then a hammer-on, that thing. Here I'm just moving it through different places on the G string of G major. Now that's brilliant for just learning your scales as well. I mentioned earlier on that this sounds a little bit Spanishy. If you change the collection of notes, the scale, then you really can make it like that. So here I'm playing a mode called a Phrygian dominant mode. I have a music theory course that goes through major scales, natural minor, pentatonics, all the way to modes, and it's got all the notated shapes everywhere that you could possibly need. I'll put a link to that below. Here I'm just doing the same thing. I'll show you the shape. This is it. 3 notes per string apart from the first. We've just got an E to an F. So that's that legato technique, just playing through this collection of notes, and it sounds really cool. And you can use any other different modes you like. Going back to G major. I'm just trying to play some shapes using the legato technique, and sometimes I was just, you know, traditional plucking with no fancy technique. But I was using those 3 note per string patterns. I just find that if I need to sharpen my technique, certainly if I haven't played for a long time like now, I tend to gravitate towards those shapes. Lots of other things I do as well, like, you know, running through arpeggios in a scale, which I love to do as well. But that's something I really zero in on, this sort of thing I'm showing you. My touch, my control, I can feel it. It's just not there at the moment, but I know it will be if I stick with really, well, anything, but stick to the process of picking up the bass every day. I think I was gone for 4 to 5 weeks. I went to London, my dad's moved to Eastbourne, I went to Eastbourne, I went to New York, then my wife's from France. So traveling everywhere, didn't have a bass, and I played a bass maybe once or twice. I was in a shop. I went to see the guys at Alinto in New York, and I played their basses. They're amazing. I'll probably do a video on a couple of those things, because certainly the Alinto stuff, it's awesome. I want one. But I haven't played. And so if you need to get back into some sort of technique thing, or really you just want to improve your technique, you just need to play every day. I'm going to commit to that to get this back. And just play any exercises you like. I'll put a link to this book. This is a technique book I wrote that's got loads of different exercises a bit like this. But if you have any questions whatsoever, then do let me know in the comments below. I get back to every one of them. And I'm back now to do some regular videos. I can't wait to keep playing more. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Please do subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next week.